Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. This is Leslie Wyatt with SoftPro. We are on episode 49 of Saved You a Seat, if you can believe it. And today we are going to talk about the benefits of a customer-first mindset, which in today's market, with not as fast and booming as it has been in the past couple of years, this is a really good time to talk about this topic. And we have two really great presenters, which I will introduce here in a second. But first, a few housekeeping items. Per usual, if you have questions, there is a question or chat feature on your screen. You can click into there and ask your questions, and we will monitor that and try and get through as many as we can. If by chance we don't get to your question, we will reach out to you offline. As a reminder, we do record these sessions, and you will receive a recap email later in the week, whereas you can access that recording and share with your peers or for your company meetings or for whatever you need to use it for. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our two wonderful speakers who both happen to be very good friends of mine. So first off, we have Kathy Kwak. She is the Chief Operating Officer with proper title here in Chicago. We actually live only a couple miles apart. Then we also have with us Andrea Somers, who has much nicer weather than us. And she is the operations manager of the Florida Agency Network. And I don't know, Kathy, I think we should probably visit Andrea in like January, February, something like that.
Agreed. I'm just gonna show up, be like, hi.
I know. Remember that time on that episode when we were talking?
I know. I'm like, you seemed agreeable. I didn't notice that you were saying no. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, right.
Come on down. You're welcome.
So before we get into it, I always find it helpful for the listeners to kind of get a background on the speakers. I know you both so well, and I feel like a lot of people do know you guys. You speak at a lot of conferences and you're very present in our industry, which I think is great. But I was just kind of thinking maybe you guys could each kind of introduce yourself and just kind of explain your company, just what you do. And maybe Kathy, we could start with you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm truly privileged to be here and answer some of the questions. But a little bit of background on me is that I'm an attorney by education. See, I stutter when I say it because I don't like to let people know that I'm an attorney. It's super secret. And so I used to practice. I practiced real estate, commercial, and residential for about 8 years. And then I got into title. And so I've been in title for the past 10 years, 10 or so. And I started off as a national commercial underwriter for one of the big four underwriters. And then I went into an agency and did commercial underwriting and managing. And then I've been at proper title for the past 7 years. And I started off overseeing the title operations. And then we have grown and my role has grown. And now currently I'm serving as COO and have been for about 2 years, over 2 years. It seems longer, it really does. And I truly enjoy my job because I get to use the legal aspect, business I've been picking up. I didn't go to business school, but I feel like I'm picking up on things. And I really enjoy meeting new people and also educating and growing the internal staff and my team. And so I feel that I'm very fulfilled in my role, but it's not perfect. There are days when I'm in a dark corner eating a toddler-sized bag of Skinny Pop from Costco and rocking back and forth. So there are those days, but the good days are when I'm really truly enjoying my role and being there for my team.
Hey, Andrea.
Love it. So I'm Andrea Somers with Florida Agency Network. I've been in title since 2001. One of these situations where I fell into it. I always say that title found me because I truly did find a passion for it. And I started out at a national title company and kind of worked my way up there, and then spent about 10 years there, and then moved into the REO foreclosure world where I learned a ton and managed a closing operation for about another 5 years, and then landed at Florida Agency Network. We call it FAN. So our headquarters are located in Plant City, Florida. If anyone's ever heard of that, it's a little town east of Tampa, Florida. However, we've got 35 total offices throughout the state of Florida. And, you know, my role with FAN is to formulate strategy. I provide leadership, oversight, and day-to-day management of our ancillary division, which is called Network Transaction Solutions.
Great. Well, clearly we have two very experienced speakers. You guys have both worked in various roles, which I have as well at my company, and I think that makes a big difference in understanding the processes and the operations and how important every role is, which leads us to how important your customers are. I feel like gone are the days where we just sit back and wait for orders to come in. I am on the Homebuyer Outreach Program hub with Alta, and I know some of you are as well. And when we first started that committee, people kind of gave us a side eye. I was like, okay, we don't really market to the consumer, which is funny because now people do indeed market to the consumer. And, you know, marketing to your partners also is a benefit to your customers. So that's why we kind of wanted to talk about this is, you know, we're in a market right now that's not as flourishing as it's been for the last 2 years, but certainly not as bad as I feel that people are painting it out to be. I feel if people would look back at their 2019 numbers and compare it to now, that's an actual accurate baseline, not 2020 through 2022. That's probably the craziest we'll ever see, right, the market. So I think now is a great time with things a little bit slower to focus on how to become more of a customer first mindset, community first mindset. And I feel like you guys do that really well. So the first thing I was hoping you could maybe touch on is, you know, both of your companies have worked really hard to be kind of known for a customer first organization. So I kind of love to hear a little bit about how, like, can you talk how you as an organization are able to do this? Some people say, oh, we'd love to, but we can't. Like, we've got orders, we just got to do this. And, you know, just like anything in our industry or any industry, you have to make a decision to do it. And then you have to obviously have a plan on how you're going to do it. And then you've got to put that in motion, and you can't just get caught up with, well, we don't have time, we'll do it later. So you know, traditionally on our, at least on the title side, and Kathy, you know this from being on both sides specifically, we used to have the mindset of, well, we don't really see the consumer until they show up at closing. We don't really have any interaction with them. And that seems to have changed quite a bit. So just kind of wondering, you know, how you guys have looked at that and made decisions to say, okay, we need to be more customer forward facing, and how you guys kind of went about doing that. And I don't know, maybe Andrea, you could start off with that.
Yeah, and it is a funny business we're in because, you know, I mean, we've got our clients and our customers, you know, we refer to our realtors and those as our clients, and then the consumers, our customers. But I mean, honestly, you know, regardless, client, customer, you know, we really, part of our culture is regardless of when we interact with them, how we interact with them, we always put them at the forefront of everything that we do as a company. You know, from that very first conversation or contact that we have all the way to the very last. And we found, you know, if we really focus on putting them first, you know, it's done a lot for us in retaining existing clients, which of course represents a huge portion of our revenue. It costs a lot to bring new clients on. So you always, I mean, of course you want to focus there too, but really retaining your existing clients is so important. I mean, you know, for us, the client, you know, or that customer may not always be right, but they're always the customer. So we're always going to put their needs first. If we have a high maintenance customer, we call them high touch, and we treat them that way. So it's really about really focusing on making them and their satisfaction number one priority. That's kind of the start to it all for us.
Kathy, what would you add to that?
So what I'll add is I'm fortunate. I've learned to say fortunate and not unfortunate, is that I live in our Chicago area. In Chicago Metro, I'm sure many of you heard, if not all, that we have an attorneys. We are required to have attorneys represent the consumer. So from the seller and buyer, And then that's from a residential standpoint. We also handle commercial. And so when you add in commercial, then you also have a lender's counsel as well that we have to talk to. And so they are really our customers. We can't call them clients because then that disrupts the relationship that the attorney has with the client itself, because that's the attorney-client privilege. However, we just recently, in the past 2 years, have expanded outside of the Chicago area and joined the rest of the US. And our customers now are realtors. And we've been working really hard at transitioning out of the attorney mindset and into a more concierge service for the realtors, because we do a lot more for them now. We have open dialogue and communication. We constantly ask them for feedback. We welcome them into our offices many times, and we encourage them to come to the closings. Many times they do. They want to come to the closings. They want to have that ceremony of handing over the keys or accepting the keys and just taking pictures for the clients. And so we really embrace that, and we really customize depending on the realtor on how we can best service them and provide them the service, because there's some realtors that they do not want to be bothered. They have this, they've been doing this a long time. And so then we have a note, we use SoftPro, and we use the pop-up note, and we always have a note so that everyone on the team knows how to handle this specific customer. And we do the same for realtors that really need a lot of hand-holding, and they expect us to do everything from entering in the order to ordering the clearance, finding out what we can do to clear the clearance, or they need referrals for attorneys many times. There's a lot of deaths that are happening, unfortunately, in Indiana, and so we found that I need to be very creative in trying to help families deal with the properties during such a horrible time. And so we're also very, we try to show empathy for the situation depending on what it is. So that's what I wanted to add.
I love that you brought up the pop-up note too, Kathy, because we absolutely utilize that tool to, put particular notes about either that client or customer in that file, just so anybody who's going to pull it up knows, oh, okay, this customer only wants to be contacted this way, or whatever that case might be. So really great tool.
Right, yeah.
Utilize.
Yeah, it was a game changer, definitely. Instead of just like asterisk and using all caps and getting really, I felt like I was screaming at anyone that opened the file. I was like, do not contact the attorney. So anyway.
Well, of course, we love to hear you using the tools within SoftPro. So
yes, of course.
Another really great thing, Andrea, that you had mentioned, you just said, your partners are also your customers. I think in our industry, when people say, yeah, we don't reach directly out to the customer, but a customer means something different to everybody, right? So like Kathy, like you said, here we have attorneys, they're your primary customers. Whereas in North Carolina, even though the attorneys do the actual closings, there's no title companies, and the realtors, everything comes from a realtor. And in other areas, it's lenders or mortgage brokers. So yes, we can certainly market to the consumer, and that is kind of a new thing for us. But also your customer is anyone that you're doing business with, any partner that you have, right? Even the consumer or anybody in the transaction. So that's a really, I think, smart way to look at it, that I don't know that everyone really stops and think about that. They just think, oh, that's where I get my orders. Well, where you get your orders is your customer. Like that's the person you're doing work for. So I'm glad that both of you kind of touched on that, because I think that kind of gets overlooked a little bit. But you guys were kind of going on this path, so I'm going to see if we can continue. But you were talking about just kind of some of the things that you kind of started off with, or what your main things that you were doing. But a lot of people ask, like, we would love to be more customer forward facing and not just sit back and wait for these orders. And the one thing that they ask are, what are some of the basic tools or basic mindsets or basic must-dos for some top-notch customer service? Specifically, where can an organization start, and what should they start with? Everybody wants to do something, and people come on and they listen to these webinars when we do different topics, and they love them, whether it be this or mentorship or support network, but they just don't know where to start. And that's overwhelming, right? When you leave a conference, you're all jacked up, you're all excited, you've gone to these sessions, and you get back and you look at your notes and you're like, where should I start? So I don't know, you don't have to be super specific, but just maybe like if you were working, if you came into an office that wasn't, currently doing what they needed to do to be, a customer first mindset. But what are some of the things that you would maybe have them sit down and outline, or how to get started, and just like the basics? And Kathy, maybe you could start with that.
So for Chicago, what we do is we pull the top 10 attorneys. And then in Indiana, we pull the top 10 brokers. And they're not necessarily, they're from various brokerage firms. And so then what we do is once we pull the top 10, we realize that they're loyal. We assume that they're loyal and they believe in proper, and they like the attention. At the end of the day, customers want to feel special, and they want to feel heard, and they want to feel that their feedback that they provide, that there's action, and there is a reaction to any feedback that's asked. Because I think many times you're like, oh, give us a rating, post something on social media to let us know how great your experience was, but we don't do anything about it, or we don't enhance it, or if there's any comments afterwards. So that's what we do. Is then we have a sales team, extraordinary sales team, that they're assigned to a customer. And so then they go out and they either grab lunch, coffee, or just even a phone call, because not many people do phone calls anymore. It's all about texting and emails, or just an Instagram story. I don't know, Snapchat. There's so many avenues to communicate now, but I feel like sometimes a phone call really means something, that you're carving out time to call and listen and follow up. And I think that if you do that, that's a really good start, because that's an audience that you can trust and know that they're going to give you honest feedback, and they're not going to just say things so that they can get you off the phone, but instead they want you to do, because it makes them feel good, knowing that, oh, they took my suggestion. Oh my gosh, they just implemented something new. I must be really important to proper. They really did mean that. So that's something that we do.
I love that. And you bring up a really good point about like the phone call, and it doesn't have to be a phone call for those of you on the webinar, but just something that's not automated, that takes more than a split second, like Kathy said, a text. Not that there's anything wrong with a follow-up text. Hey, thanks for your business. Hope the closing went well today. But picking up the phone, even if you leave a voicemail, if they hear your voice, it's more personal. And I feel like, especially after the past 2 years, people are looking for a little bit more personal interaction. At least that's what we've seen. And it's kind of a lost art, same as writing a thank you note. When if someone sends me a thank you note, like for speaking or something in the mail, I'm touched. Like, I know it's their job, but they still took the time and did it. So there's nothing wrong with an email or a text, like you said, Kathy, but if you can go that extra mile, it just kind of helps you stand out, right? It differentiates you from everyone else that says, hey, thanks, I thought it went great. Can you give us a shout out? Everybody asks for that. And if you're not, you should be, for the record. You should always be asking your customers for reviews and shout outs, but going that extra mile is what differentiates you and makes them stay your customer and feel good about being your customer and want to be your customer. So I could not agree more with that. What do you guys think, Andrea? What are some of your stuff you think is kind of a basic where to start?
Yeah, and I think, Kathy hit on some really good points. And so just kind of piggybacking off of that, I mean, absolutely. Customers, people, we want to feel like it's about us. None of us want to be another number. So I think, for us, we really started with, okay, what does top-notch customer service look like? What does customer service mindset look like? And it really starts with being proactive. So training your staff to really actively listen to the clients. You make that phone call, but make that a purposeful conversation, a really purposeful, actively listening exercise. What are they saying, but then also what are they not saying? Observe your clients, study them, what makes them happy, what makes them frustrated, and then really start to learn how to be proactive from that. And so we spend some time really training our staff on that type of service psychology, using the customer's name and creating that emotional connection. Read the room. You're not going to have the same conversation with one customer or client to another. So again, for us, we really focus a lot on active listening and then learning to be proactive. This customer doesn't like this. This thing, this part of the process frustrates them. So let's get ahead of it when we're talking to this customer. So we spend a lot of time really observing our customers and clients and learning more, and then creating training around that.
Yeah, those are really great points. And a couple of things that I got away from that I'd also like to mention is, you mentioned like creating a plan, right? To me, this is no different than, people struggle to create that company culture. This is no different to me because it's a mindset and it's not specific to your job, right? Even though we think it is, not everyone does. They think their job is to do X, Y, Z, and they do it and they do it well, and that's all that matters. And that's true. But to kind of differentiate yourself and stand out, this needs to be another mindset and part of your job. And I would urge people to look at it more as important as sitting down and creating your operational workflow would be the same as creating, okay, from our first touch point to this customer to our last touch point, these are the milestones that we want to make sure to hit, because this is what's going to keep them coming back and this is what's going to make us stand out. And I don't think enough people do that. They mean well and they give good customer service, but it's not maybe consistent, and it's maybe not consistent through actual employees within the organization. So I think that that's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around. But if they think about it as, no, I need to create the workflow for my customer service as important as the workflow for my actual transactions, then maybe that's a good place to start. And they have something tangible. People need something tangible, right? Especially when they're presenting. And Andrea, you just said read the room. You took the words out of my mouth. Every single time I present, and I speak a lot throughout the year, at least 50 plus times a year. And the first thing I do is I like to go and see how they interact with other speakers, because it gives me an idea, like, oh, are they all here for CE and CLE credits? All right, I'll be matter of fact and to the point and get it done. Are they here and they're fun and they want this? Then I might joke around. Like, you just kind of have to know your audience, and having a plan, a customer service plan, helps you, I think, identify reading the room for different customers. So I think those are really great points. You also mentioned about training, which is my next topic I'd love for you guys to talk about, because piggybacking what I just said is fostering a customer first mindset among your internal staff can be difficult, right? Because they are there to do their job and they do it. And I think it starts at the top. You have to have the buy-in from your leadership in order for your staff or your team members to buy in. So how do you ensure that buy-in? Do you guys internally do any training? Do you send them to training, workshops, webinars? What's your process of saying, okay, we have great team members. Now we want to make sure those team members are all giving the same great customer service. So how do you get that buy-in? And is there anything specific as far as training or, like I said, workshops or anything that you can talk to that you might do? And Andrea, you can kick that off.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because that's the real challenge. We all know what we should do. So how do we get us all doing it? For us, I would definitely say it starts with company culture. So if you don't have a company culture, it's something that you really want to invest in. Because it's going to start internally. So customer service for us is a huge part of our culture. Fostering a desire to take care of people, fostering a desire to serve. Our leadership team, we work on servant leadership. So, we lead by example. So our team members see us serving and servicing them even, and that kind of just runs through. But absolutely, we train on customer service, we role play, we talk through scenarios. Yeah, we do a lot of role play. And an example is even just down to little things when I talk about, what sets us apart. We've even trained on using positive language, and that's something that doesn't come naturally to everyone. So, there's a way that you can deliver any kind of message positively, even if you're not giving the best news. For example, we can't close till next month because of ABC delays, but you can say, we're going to be able to close you right, you know, as soon as the ABC is ETA for that is next month. So, I mean, it's really just all of these little things. We do have, you know, an annual seminar that we hold for our company. We close the company down that day. And so we've had speakers come in and talk on customer service. More so, you know, our leadership team will do a lot of training, a lot of workshops on customer service or different service psychology, you know, different tips. And, you know, it's funny because you said, Leslie, you come back from these things and you're looking at your notes, you're like, oh my gosh, what did this even mean? But we can, you know, we've all made a commitment, kind of all having related to that, right? We've made this commitment of, okay, what I learned, let's regroup that night, you know, and just kind of talk through this stuff and game plan, because the idea is anything that we learn and take back, we want to drive it into our organization and, you know, make that more of our company culture. And so how do we do that? And it might be with newsletter videos, or, you know, we make it fun and cute, and sometimes it's interactive, and sometimes it's just like, here, watch this video, contests, you know. And so it's something we talk a lot about, and I think that's why it becomes our culture, because it's a regular conversation we're having with our teams daily. And then again, like I said, leading by example, you know, they're seeing leadership team doing these things. You know, we don't just say it and do something else, we do it. So that's what I would say.
You are 1000% correct. I mean, no matter how big or small, I don't care if you're a 4-person shop, a 40-person shop, or a 400-person shop, everybody looks to the people above them to see what they're doing and how they're acting, and that is how they react off of that, right? And you mentioned the company culture, and I know I said something too, and I've had people come up to me and be like, well, here's our mission statement and here's our culture, and I always said, that's a great one. Like, how do you implement that? And it's just dead air. They're like, huh? We put it on the wall. Yeah, that doesn't work, right? Yes, we all know, especially hiring people and getting good customer service, you need buy-in for that company culture. And in order to get buy-in, you need to have plans in place, like you just mentioned, Andrea, all the stuff that you do to show that you are living and breathing your company culture, because it's hard to ask someone to do something that you're not doing yourself. So if you're on a management team or leadership team or a team lead, they're looking to you to come back and show them, you know, how to do this. And I think some of the tools that you just mentioned are really great. And Kathy, I'd love to hear what you guys do. I'm more familiar with a lot of the stuff that Proper does because I live here in Chicago and I get the newsletters and see all this stuff. So I think you guys do a great job, you know, and I've been on site with you guys. So I would love to hear a little bit of how you get this internal buy-in. I know some of it's gonna be very similar to what Andrea's group does, because I know Andrea and Jay very well as well. And I just love to hear how just the tiniest little snippet sometimes that somebody hears is like, oh, I should do that. That'll make all the difference in the world. You know, you just said video newsletters, Andrea, and I guarantee half the people on this webinar right now were like, oh, we should be doing that. You know, just little tiny things that you guys are sharing is so great. So I'd love to hear, Kathy, maybe some things that you guys do to get that internal buy-in.
So I just want to say first that I'm a fan of fan. And I truly mean that. Whenever I see the leadership team there, I just said to Aaron Davis, who's the CEO and owner, I said, man, I think that I just am so excited to see you and your team, because it resonates with me, because I feel like our cultures are very similar. So I think that everything that Andrea was saying, I'm not just nodding to look like I'm moving and my screen isn't frozen. I'm really nodding because I agree with you, Andrea. It's just extraordinary, the culture that you built out there. And so I'm saying out there because you are out there compared to Chicago. And so, but with that, what I've done, and that's a little bit, that's going to separate, that we try to separate ourselves from our competitors, is that we hold we actually partner with our underwriters, and we have many underwriters, and we ask for their best salesperson, and we ask them to come and speak to our staff, and we do different departments. So I've done title, I've done escrow, and I've done even clerks and coordinators to come in to impress on them that we are all in sales, whether we like it or not. And I've also worked very, very hard the past at least 6 years, is that anyone that is a part of the team, if you're new to the title industry, you not only have to do the title journey on F&F, it's on Leads. I definitely recommend it. It's just excellent. It really breaks down the title and escrow process. And I know that they just came out with the escrow journey as well. But just saying that, I'm just plugging away the Fidelity family right now, by the way, and I didn't even mean to, but they just provide so many great resources. But anyway, besides that, I also make sure that I sit with them. And that's why I know every single staff and team member that's at Proper Title. And it's because I let them know what their role is in the big picture. I think that many times you get trained and you do the day-to-day and you get the good job, you entered in 50 orders today, you know, and you crushed it, but then you don't understand the impact of you crushing it or having an off day. And so I like to explain and provide each staff member the purpose of their role in the big picture. Because I think once they understand the big picture and how important their role is, because everyone's role is important, you know, from start to finish, even post-closing. Post-closing, I impress on them, listen, you are the last stop. So your dedication and thoroughness is why you're in this role. You get to catch any errors that we're going to have to correct post-recording, and that's a pain in the butt. You know, we don't want to do that because it's going to cost the company money and aggravation for our customer because we made that error, even though it may be the customer's fault, but it doesn't matter. Title companies get blamed no matter what, always. It doesn't matter. We could have a flood and it's our fault. And so I just think that that is first, is internal, is making sure the staff understands their role in the big picture, because they can understand then, okay, this is how I need to best service the customer, meaning just even data entry. If you think of entering in an order, the orders are coming in with very slim information, very limited information, where they literally just add a name and say it's a sale. And you're like, I need the property address so that we can kind of enter in the order. And so we trained our order entry clerk to reach out and communicate and use. I always encourage everyone to use their own voice. And so I provide template emails. And then at the end, I said, listen, this is the substance that I need for you to have in the email. However, I don't want you to sound like a robot. I want you to sound like yourself. And so please flavor it how you want, professionally, by remaining professional. Like, I don't want memes like flying everywhere, but just keeping within the parameters. I give flexibility to the staff because I want them to take ownership, and we also celebrate wins. If we ever get feedback about a specific department or a specific person, we make it a big deal. So I send out a staff email, and I send them usually a gift card and a handwritten note, and it means the world to this person because they got feedback from a customer, and so then it makes them work harder and get more creative, which is really great. So
I love all of that. I mean, I speak on this topic quite a bit, and I love to see it implemented, and I think you guys do it so well at both of your companies. I know both your leadership teams very well, and I couldn't think higher of them if it was possible. You know, Kathy, you just touched on something that's very big at our company as well, and that's celebrating the wins. We have a huge, obviously based on the type of business that we're in, we have a huge customer service department. You know, a good portion of our company happens to be in support. And, you know, nobody calls support to say, hey, how you doing? Right? Everybody's calling support because they got a problem, they got an issue, they're upset, whatever the reason may be. Nobody calls just to say hi. So when somebody takes the time to send us a message and tell us how great one of our support representatives was, we blessed it like to their department. We'll put it in a newsletter. We'll talk about it in various different parts of the company, because that is a very hard job that does not get enough recognition for what they do. And for somebody to get called out on that, especially because the person calling in was clearly not happy in the first place, that's a big deal. And celebrating those wins, whether it be in support, whether it be because they did a great job at closing, on my team, if we finish a project early, anything. I think you're right, celebrating them and letting people know what a great job they're doing, it's kind of a lost art in my opinion. I really don't think it's done enough. And a note, we do peer-to-peer recognition because we have to work within departments, and they don't always have to work together. So when they do, sometimes they're kind of blown away what somebody implementation is doing and the docs team. And it's really nice for people to recognize that. And I think it goes a long way, and it makes people want to do better. And when they're doing better, they're obviously, benefiting the customer. So I could not agree more with that. Plus, these people work so hard. These teams work so hard, and they're behind the scenes. I always say that, like, I go somewhere and people, like, I know them, right? I've traveled, I've get to see everybody. And at the end of the day, my job is nowhere near as important as that support rep or coder, but I'm the face that they see. So I love when we get to bring people. That's why I love our user group so much, because we get to bring so many people who are normally behind the scenes, and customers love getting to meet them, like absolutely love it. And I just, it's kind of a way in my mind of celebrating them and what they do and giving them that face time with the customer. So I agree 100%. The next thing I want to talk about, ironically, because Kathy and Andrea were just talking about this before we started the webinar, but great customer service can definitely differentiate you from your competitor, right? And utilizing it as a marketing tool, I think, is extremely underused. Wayne Stanley with Bo Digital is constantly telling people that. So, what do you mean you just won these awards? Did you do a press release? Did you put it in your newsletter? Did you do anything? No. It's like, he's like, that's crazy because your competitors didn't win those awards, right? And so it really does help you stand out. And going back to our support staff, they win almost every year. I don't know for how many years, the #1 support staff in the industry, which is a hard thing to do for a support staff. And so, our very own Kathy Kwak here just won the Our Values Award through Alto, which is an extremely coveted award and extremely prestigious. And my hope is that you will shout that from the rooftops from Proper Title, and explain why and what it is and why it's so important, because that's really the intent of it. And for those of you that don't know, you are nominated by peers or people in the industry. You go through a grueling, I happen to be on that committee. It's a pretty grueling process of weeding people out and then talking to people around them and getting feedback, because it's supposed to be someone who's really above and beyond. We all do great work, but this is, this person's supposed to really stand out. So if you get any of those type of awards or any customer service-based feedback, comments, anything, are you guys using this in your marketing? And if so, how? So since I put you on the spot with your award, Kathy, I'll let you kick that off.
100%. I mean, Proper is very fortunate that we have two women that are passionate about just marketing, being creative. That is not a part of the brain that I really have. And so I'm very appreciative of these individuals, because they are not only able to work in an environment where they're able to explore their joy and their passion, but also make title insurance kind of interesting, which is crazy in my mind. That people are like, oh my gosh, it was funny. And I was like, title insurance is funny. I was like, all right. I'm like, okay, I'll go with it. But we definitely use the social media platforms, 100%, including LinkedIn. LinkedIn, we definitely use, we communicate, we put everything out there. I think the only platform that we don't use is Twitter, and it's only because it's difficult. You have to basically have someone that's constantly on Twitter, and I call it twittering. I know it's not twittering, but this is how much I don't use it, and I'm not on it, is that you have to constantly keep up with that. And I think that's very difficult. So it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We send a lot of e-blasts to our realtors and also our attorneys, and that is really helpful. And we send out e-blasts, anything from just feedback on closings, processes that we're changing internally. We send out surveys a lot too as well, and attorneys love giving feedback. Realtors, maybe not so much as attorneys, but attorneys are very vocal. And I can say that because I used to be one. I always say that I used to be one. And so I think that is what's really good. And if you don't have anyone in marketing or that is or a marketing expert, or even digital media and education, then you can certainly, what you can do, what I suggest is look at your team and see who's on their phone a lot. Or you notice that if you're friends with them on Facebook, or if you follow them on Instagram, which I encourage you to do, because you can learn a lot about your staff by being on their social media. It could be annoying at times, but it's just a little like indicator of how life is going for them, and that could be a part of the culture, as a side note. But if you don't, then just look to your team and see if you can pull that person out from your team that may end up being one of your sales reps, and it may be unexpected. And maybe this person is someone that's just like, this is a job, I need the money, but this is not the passion. I wish I can find the passion. And maybe this person is there because they love the culture and they love the people, and that's why they're working for the company, because they're very proud. But at the end of the day, you may be able to pull a certain skill set that you didn't know about that doesn't get pulled often in title.
I could not agree more. We always say this in our presentations. I keep bringing up Wayne. I know you guys both know him well. I present with them a lot on these topics.
Yes.
And one of the things we always say, because people will say, well, we don't have a marketing department, we're small. We're like, yeah, but you have a staff. And I bet there's one or two, if not more, people on your staff that either do the videography at their church on Sundays, that, you know, are and Kathy, you know, tap into what you have. It's also nice for them to kind of have a different role and different options of stuff to do. People really like it. And the social media component is so easy. It's free. You know, you don't need to go out and spend money and hire people. You definitely can look within. And you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to touch on real quick too, is, you know, every team member is a sales rep, right? Is a salesperson. And we say this over and over again. We're like, your first touch when somebody calls your office, that person who takes that call is your number one salesperson. So don't, you know, all sit in a conference room while that person sits out there and answers the phone and doesn't get included like maybe in the past. They are a brand ambassador, and they are your first touch, and they're your first impression, and they probably know more about your customers, the ins and outs of the various attorneys and realtors and your team than anyone else in the office. And so I encourage you to look past, oh, this is my team and this is who I'm going to include, and look at it as a whole and say every single person in this building or in our offices or on our team is a brand ambassador, and every single person has an impact, and include everybody. When you include everyone too, the mindset shifts, right? Don't you think? Like people look at the more team members than roles, if you will. And so I encourage people to do that. And so, Andrea, do you have anything that you guys do from like, you know, marketing, using your customer service as a marketing tool?
I mean, absolutely what Kathy said. And I was going to say the same thing, Leslie. She hit it on the head. Everyone's a salesperson, and we do that too. So of course, celebrating our wins and telling our story, you know, when we've got great feedback. And so to really to add to that, of course, you know, we study our customers. I talked about that. We observe them. We're obtaining surveys and feedback. We actually do weekly client check-in calls. We've got, you know, mass list of clients, and we kind of divide and conquer. You know, I'm going to make these 5 calls this week, and you'd be surprised what you learn having a meaningful conversation, good, bad, and ugly. But, you know, when we learn what they want more tools, they want more tech, some want contactless experience. You know, with each thing that we learn, it's how do we build this into our process, whether it's technology or a certain way that we handle a mundane process. You know, these pieces that we add on can then turn into content creation ideas. You know, we can market new tech that we've added on or new tools. So, you know, for us at FAN, we're known for being cutting edge when it comes to technology. It's become part of our brand. So, you know, and that really came from what does our customer want, you know, and we talked about earlier these milestones, you know, where can we fit customer service, top-notch service into these milestones? What would make their experience better? And then, yeah, we take that and we absolutely market it and put stuff on social media about what we're doing now. And hey, anybody who doesn't know that we've got this new tool, now you know. So anything that you're doing customer service, whether it's telling a story or a change to a process or new technology, becomes a story that you get to tell.
Yeah, and you guys were talking about getting feedback from customers, and the one thing I want to mention too that someone said once, and it always resonated with me, was it's great when you get good customer feedback and they say like we had a great closing experience. Everybody, there's probably 1,000 people sending that to somebody today. We had a great closing experience. When you guys are looking for feedback and you have your team asking for feedback or whatever the method is, whether it's a survey or whatever it may be, it's important to kind of lay down what you're looking for. I don't really want, yes, I want them to have a great experience, but I want to be able to tell people why. That's what sets you apart, right? It's like when you go to all the different websites of all the different title companies and they're like, great customer service. Well, why? How do you provide great customer service? Number one in the county. Why? Why are you number one in the county? Because you're bigger and you have, just by nature do more closings, or you're just that much better and I need to know why. So I think it's important when we're talking about marketing and we're talking about customer service and getting that feedback to really try and push it to that next level. Because I think then you can really use it to set yourself apart. Like, we had a great customer experience because Andrea was the absolute best. She sat down with us. It doesn't even have to be anything extraordinary. It's just, if I'm a consumer or I'm an attorney or a realtor and I see that versus we had a great experience or we had a great experience because, I'm going to be more drawn to because that person is explaining their process. So keep that in mind when you're asking for feedback, and you can definitely, if you're using a survey or anything like that, you can definitely guide people down that road without, telling them like we need more. So for those of you on the call here, just think about that. If you're getting pretty generic feedback, maybe look at what you're asking for or how you're asking for it, and kind of guide people to give you better feedback that you can then blast on social media, put on your webpage, put up in your office. And then one other thing I'll say, and I know everyone's gonna be like, ooh, except for a small handful, is, video is the way to go nowadays. People don't want to sit and read, right? So if you're doing an email out to your customers and you have someone willing to do a video, even if it's a staff member, a brand ambassador, like, hey, I loved meeting our customers this week, blah, 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 blah. It goes a long way because they can play that while they're working. They don't have to scroll through and read things. So I know, and who am I? I'm what a hypocrite today. I'm not on video, but I have no problem. I have no problem being on video whatsoever. But I will say now that I get so many like video emails, they're the ones I read first or listen to first before going through and like reading stuff. So utilize that type of stuff and ask people to do videos for you for social media. Ask your staff to do them. Going back to, there's people there that are happy to do it. You may not know it, but they love it.
You'd be surprised who won
right?
did that. Who is interested in doing videos? We'll write out the script for you, but who's interested? And I was really surprised by some people that I never would have thought want to do a video. So yeah, ask. I think you're so right, Leslie. I think there's more than you know at your company that would be interested in being in a video.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that came from 2020 to 2022, right? People got comfortable on Zoom and working. So now they're like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. I don't care. So, that's a good thing there. Going back to your buy-in, I was wondering how you guys, I understand that, the culture and kind of living what you say is kind of how you get the buy-in. But is there a way or anything that people could use as far as how to learn effective customer service skills or tactics or relationship building skills? I know there's workshops and webinars and TED Talks, and I know, I'm not saying like, I think you should use all that. Those are all, a lot of them are free. But I don't know if there's anything specific that you guys do or if you just handle it all internally. Andrea?
We do a lot. We've done a lot of training with Ramsey Solutions, which is Dave Ramsey's group. We, as a leadership group, we do book reading. Right now we're reading a book by Brene Brown, which is a really great book. And so we also, our leadership team recently attended Ritz-Carlton leadership training out in Orlando and learned about the Ritz brand and how they train on customer service. And I will tell you, we have a 3-year plan to roll out everything we learned. I mean, this really has just boosted our customer service training to the next level. I would say, you know, I think it's not just one route that you're going to learn things. You're going to take value from everything you learn, whether it's a book or a training or a video. But I would say anything that you learn, any training that your leadership or management team takes, don't let it fall to the wayside. It's so easy for us to go to a training, come back and be, you know, you're inspired at the training, and then you come back and you're back to normal life and don't stay on it. To really, you know, commit to creating a plan to really drive anything that you learn into the organization. I mean, we're not reading a book to just read a book. We're reading a book so we see where can we drive this into our organization, whether that's continuous training or creating videos, or, you know, and then watch your staff, see who's energized or inspired by your training. And now you've got buy-in, who's taking it in, let them be part of continuous training. So we do quite a bit, and we take from a lot of different places, you know, to build on our customer service.
Kathy?
Yeah, so I have to say that I do all that Andrea just listed for sure, where we even have a proper book club. We call it a proper book club. And now it's turned into just let's get together and catch up. So, but we're reading before we come with the intention of discussing the book. So we do have good intention, but we're hoping that this group is going to grow. And then just recently, I formed something called a culture committee, and I am not a part of it. I decided that I really wanted my direct reports to get together, because they are really, they get really down and dirty with the staff. You know, it's not every day that I'm working with all the staff. It depends on the day on who I'm communicating with. And so with that, I wanted to really hear from my direct reports as to what was happening. And then also I wanted them to just feel free to get creative and continue the culture, because I impress on them that I'm only one person and I can't be everywhere all the time. And so I depend on each of them to do that. And so I think that going back to the beginning, saying where you can start is internally is building a culture, because once you're all together and on the same page, and you're, what we say is our colors are blue. So we say, you're not part of the team and you don't feel the culture until your blood turns from red to blue. So we're like, are you bleeding blue yet? And we always say that. We're like, are you bleeding blue yet? And people are like, yes, I'm bleeding blue. It's like coming out of all holes in my body. And it's just it's so fun. And now it's turned into a thing where we're like, I think everyone's bleeding blue now. And it just brings people together. And I think that it's important. And so once that conversation happens, they're more easily able to strategize with each other. So there's one, I send all my managers to, or any management, if you're managing even just one person or managing a transaction, like a transaction manager, it doesn't matter. I think that you need the same tools and skills to manage. And so I send them to something called Skill Path. I believe it's it's throughout the US, but they have very general overview of different topics in management. And so I took the course because I always say, I'm not going to send anybody unless I go first and try it out and make sure that it's worth it or what the content is. And so I went to one and it was so interesting. And it was just about general management. And I had people there from grocery store, someone that owned a car repair shop. It was from all industries. And it was just so interesting to me because I learned that we all have customers. And we all have the same people that we have to deal with when you're managing. It's just the content and what your company is selling or what your company is about, but at the same time, it's universal, the skills that you're learning. So that's something that I definitely send. And they used to do it just in person, but due to COVID, now they offer it online. And it's relatively affordable, meaning that it's an investment that you have to put in to your managers so that they grow and they are on a path of, success. So then they feel that too.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that. And as when you show that you're invested in your team and your team members within your organization, the return on that is tenfold. And I don't know that people fully get that because our industry, of course, was a little bit different as far as, you just kind of show up, do your work. Where now we're kind of more like career oriented and more customer oriented and longevity. And we find, at least at our company at SoftPro, anytime that we can invest in someone to make them feel better about what the job they're doing and make us feel better, and also, get them excited about doing different things or just bettering or new things at their current role, there's pretty much no chance we're going to say no. We also have internally, we have a training team, and within that training team, we have different departments, and we have somebody that has created this massive library of learning, if you will. It's like a learning management system, but anybody can take any class. It's all online, it's all available. I could go on and do 15 today. Of course I won't because I have work to do, but I could go on and do 15. And mandatory, we make people do a certain, each team, depending on us, have to do a certain amount each quarter. It could be something as, I'd love to be better at Excel. I'd love to learn all the dictionaries and Word, or I'd love to be a better manager. And there's so many different options and courses, but to your point, Kathy, there's so much available online for free or minimal cost. And somebody wanted to say that, wanted to know the name of the management course. It was that you just mentioned, Kathy.
Oh, Skill Path.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Skill
it's
Path.
Skill
Yeah,
Path.
Skill Path.
Okay, and then also I just
Great.
wanted to throw this out to you guys. Somebody posted that says, not a question, but I just wanted to say that this webinar is great with a lot of great information and ideas. So you guys are doing awesome, and it's just a topic I don't think we all have time for because everyone's busy in their roles. And Andrea, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said when you came back from Ritz, it was important that you guys implemented something versus saying, oh, okay, that was great, I'm energized, I'll get to it later, because that's what happens. I mean, we're all guilty of it because we all have day-to-day jobs. So I would say to that, allowing your team members the time to attend these things and then implement what they learn, because they're going to, sometimes people think that, no, I have to do my job, when really you just need to let them know, no, this is part of your job. And we'd love for you to take the time to do it. So don't assume that they know it's okay. Vocalize it. Like, hey, if you need the Friday afternoon off so you can do this, great, do it. So just, I feel like that in itself will lend itself to more of the culture that you're building and customer service. So
yeah.
So sadly, I think our time is up, but I wanted to give you each a moment to say what you think would be your best, one takeaway for people.
I know, I saw that question and it's blank.
It doesn't have to be anything major. It could
I was like,
I know. It doesn't have to, honestly, I've learned over the years, especially through all the things that we've done, is the more easy and simple, the better. Even if it's just, pick a book, just like you said, Kathy. You read a management book, just let everybody in your team know. You don't have to force them to read it, but let them know. But I just from you guys and stuff that you've done, what would be kind of like one piece of advice to start with?
For me, my one piece of advice I would say is definitely get to know your customers, through a lot of the ways that we've talked about today, whether it's surveys or, phone calls, training your staff how to ask for feedback. Not everyone's comfortable doing that, but get to know your customers, because then you know what they like, what they want, what they don't like. Stay up on the latest tech from your software provider, and any vendors out there. Make use of automation and integration. I think we find our customers really want that. But I think the key is get to know your customer, and remember, retaining a customer costs way less than getting a new one. So, focus on the ones you have. Don't forget about them. So that would be my advice.
I was trying to just copy what Andrea said, but I feel like that wouldn't be right. And this is why Leslie asked me and you, because we're different. We're the same.
We're the same.
With that, what I'll say is be intentional, and time is very precious to all of us. I think that if the pandemic brought anything, it's that we all have been created to be around each other, to be a part of something. Everyone wants to feel like they belong, and they all want to be heard at some point. It doesn't matter in what form, whatever they're comfortable with. We've all been created differently, but also the differences to bring us together. So I think that what I mean by intentional is I think we're very quick to be like, yeah, let's move on. Yeah, I have another thing. And you get distracted. We're filled with distractions. Even when you work from home, I have distractions. Right now, I can't stand it. There's like 3 men hanging over my balcony right now. And in my peripheral, I wish that my peripheral was like done, because I've been very distracted. And so what I mean is that clear the distractions. And when you're talking to not only your staff, your team, your customers, you carved out that time. So make it the most by listening, engaging, getting to know a little bit about it, and don't think of it as a waste of time or moving on or thinking about the next appointment or meeting or Zoom, but instead be in that moment, because I guarantee you'll get something out of it where you'll be able to imply. You're like, you know what? I'm glad that I talked to that person, even if it was for 10 minutes. Or you're late to the next call. Don't let that pressure push you. We all run late. I feel like we've all been very generous and kind to one another when saying like, I'm so sorry, I'm running late, 5 minutes late, I'll be there. We're all very patient, because guess what? We have emails to check. We have texts to check. There's always things to do when someone's running late. And so that is my advice, piggybacking off of what Andrea said.
Love it.
Well, my advice is everybody should listen to everything these two lovely ladies just told you. I also will throw out there, and I'm just kind of laying the groundwork for maybe like a spring webinar, back together with you two. Is I would love to at one point also, because we don't have enough time, but I will say that I think the overlooked benefit of customer forward thinking, because you invest so much in your team, is employee retention. I think that doing all this helps facilitate and create a closer, more cohesive team and organization, and an unintended byproduct of that is people want to stay there. They've invested, you've invested, and to your point, Kathy, these, being intentional, it helps with your employee retention, which again would be a whole nother webinar, which we will for sure hit you guys. We'll do a part 2. How about that? Yeah, right. All right, well, thank you so much, Andrea and Kathy, and everyone who joined us today. Like I said, we will send out a recording and a recap for anybody that would like to listen to it or share it. We will send it out in a couple of days. I say we all know it's not me. We all know it's Ellen Kama, who does everything for us at Marketing Minds at SoftPro. And if you have any further questions or thoughts, please just let us know. And with that, we will sign off, and bye to everybody out there, and I'll see you guys later, Andrea and Kathy.
All right, have a great day, guys.
Bye, everyone.